Alrighty guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Jake with Timberfall Craft, and today we're going to be talking about the Zompopo. This is a knife by Condor Knife and Tool, made in El Salvador, and I've been carrying this for a while now, and we have a lot to talk about this little knife. This is a really crazy design by Joe Flowers, and this thing has a lot of potential and has a really lot of good features for somebody like me who does a lot of stuff outdoors and then also needs a knife for utility work and wood carving, bushcraft, all that kind of stuff, all kind of wrapped in one. And it also can serve in a self-defense role if absolutely necessary with little to no training due to some design features of this blade. So there's a lot to unpack. So we've got micarta, 1095 steel, I believe it's 56 to 58 HRC, which is pretty common on 1095. And these run around $100. $100 for this. And it comes with the Kydex sheath. I've been carrying this knife for a little while now, and there's a few things I've noticed. I've used this at work, I've used this as a utility knife, and I've used this for some bushcraft stuff, and we're going to go over all of that here. But right off the bat, I wanted to talk about a few things. So this sheath, I initially had tried this with the Ulti clip, and it was working, but it's weird. And I can't justify putting a little knife like this on my belt personally. I just don't want to put this little guy on my belt. Just a personal preference. So I tried the Ulti clip and it just didn't work out. So this is a really difficult blade shape, I am sure, to make Kydex work with efficiently and get everything right. I don't know that for sure. But with the Ulti clip in my pocket, I was having trouble getting this in and out of the sheath gracefully. I was finding Kydex on the blade and it just wasn't a pleasant experience. And I don't know if that had to do with maybe the Ulti clip pinching the sheath together maybe or something, but I don't know if that makes any sense because there's still two screws holding this belt loop on here. And I originally thought this was leather, but I honestly don't know what this is, to be honest. It feels kind of plasticky. So right off the bat, I noticed that the edge was getting rolled very easily. It was getting like a roll on it or a burr on it, and I assumed that the factory edge just wasn't that refined. And it's either that or it's from the Kydex. It was from me pulling this knife in and out of the Kydex, which was leaving the rolled edge on this blade. And I was able to straighten it out with a ceramic rod, but it kept coming back. And I don't know if it's there or not still. This is still the factory edge, and I still have not done anything to it, except for strop and hit with ceramic. So that's one problem I've been seeing with this. So after I've done all the stuff I'm going to do in this video with this knife, I'm going to redo the edge, and I'm also going to do something with the tip. So this is marketed as a utility knife slash bushcraft knife slash self-defense knife. That were the design features for the role of this knife. And I would say that it does all of those things pretty well. I haven't used it in a self-defense scenario, but I'll explain why I believe that this would be good in self-defense. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here and keep everything in sequential order as I talk. So let's go back to the sheath really quick. So I was having troubles with the sheath. Didn't want to wear it on my belt. With the Ulti clip, I was having trouble in and out. Just didn't like the way it felt. Just felt weird. It was scraping the edge, leaving it rolled. At least I'm assuming that it was the sheath. So I pretty much stopped carrying this after a couple days. And what I found was that the MKM leather pocket sheath works really good with this knife. Just be careful when you put it in. and you can get the tip of that blade in this sheath pretty far, and it sits in there like that. So I found that this is the best way for me to carry this knife. I really love this sheath. Pretty much any small compact fixed blade that fits in this sheath, I have really been liking this, and it's been the best for me. You can take it out one-handed, you can put it in one-handed. Sometimes the sheath wants to come with you. Sometimes when you put it in there, the sheath wants to go into your pocket. I wish they had a stronger magnet on these, but I really, really like this sheath. And it's almost a two-hand job putting this knife away as it is, just because you have to get everything lined up just right to follow the curve and put everything in. You can do it one-handed, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. So the other option would be is maybe to wear this as a neck knife, which I have not done. So this sheath right here with this knife has been the best option for me. I don't care if it doesn't go in all the way, the tip's sitting right here, knife isn't going anywhere. It's basically what I've been doing. This knife is supposed to do bushcraft things. And it carves, and I'll show you how it carves and all that other good stuff. It carves really good. It has a really weird, awkward shape, and it carves fine. You have you essentially have two recurve edges here. This one's more straight, but it's still recurved. And then you have this step here, the second point, and then you have another recurve area that comes out to a very fine hawkbill type point. And even though this is a really weird shape, it still carves. I can carve with this knife actually pretty decent. So what another thing is that you need to do with a bushcraft knife is use the tip to usually dig into wood. Typically when I have a bushcraft knife, it has to be able to drill a hole into the wood. Plain and simple. If it doesn't do that, it's not a bushcraft knife, at least in my book. If I were to drill into a piece of wood with the tip of this knife, look what it's done to the tip. That tip is ground way too thin. The tip of my knife is now ruined. Right out of the gate, that was one of the first things I did with this knife, and boom. So I would suggest not calling this a bushcraft knife if it can't handle the stresses of the tip being used like that. That's just my opinion, but this is also easily fixed, and we're going to fix this later. So that's really disappointing. So we have the edge rolling and folding over for unknown reasons, and we have a really fragile tip. So we're not off to a great start. Most of your spoon carving grips, this knife is going to work fine with. This particular cut is very awkward and uncomfortable when you're using your thumb to power the tip section through wood, but it's definitely doable. And the blade is short, so if you want to cover a lot of ground on your carving, as you can see, the straight edge isn't long enough to get the whole back of the spoon. But you can also focus on the top portion. So, I mean, it's a little awkward for a lot of fine detail tip work or areas where you need a long continuous cut, but it is manageable and doable and way better than I thought it would be. Can you rough out a spoon with this? You could. Is it going to be the most comfortable thing? No. I would probably stick with more basic bushcraft stuff with this knife. It's capable of it, but I wouldn't bring it as a dedicated carving knife, but it can carve if you just want to do a little bit of carving. As you use it more, you probably will get the hang of it more into what it can do and how it does it. But for bushcraft stuff, I think it's plenty. And then you get the added benefit of this hawkbill and double edge here. Really curious to see how this would work with small game, birds and trout. Possibly big game, but I don't know. Leave a comment below. Do you guys think this would be, for you hunters out there, you think this would be a good hunting knife? Now I want to address this little step on the edge. This gives you a secondary tip, but this also does the neat little trick that the Tom Brown knife does. If you get that on the piece of wood, you can make really nice feather curls, really nice curls for starting fires. This will absolutely do that, and it will scrape a fire steel. So there was a knife that I wanted a long time ago, maybe a year ago by now, and I really wanted it, and this knife really reminds me of that. And it is called the Ripper Foraging Tool, and I believe it's by WildCard Wilderness or something like that. I'll go ahead and put that on the screen so you guys can take a look at it. I'm pretty sure those are made in America. They're more expensive than this, but it's very similar. The difference being the handle looks a little bit more ergonomic, and it is not an extreme of a curve, and it obviously doesn't have this step thing, but you do have a hawkbill knife that's roughly around this size, marketed as a foraging tool. So not even realizing that when I bought this a couple weeks later, I remembered that knife and realized how similar this design is to that. So I'll put that on the screen so you guys can check that out. You might be interested in that. Guys, this thing is going to rip through all of your EDC tasks with no problem at all. This aggressive hawkbill will get under zip ties. You can pop them loose. This thing will absolutely shred open packages and cardboard, no problem, as long as you have a sharp edge. Cut through cord, all of that good stuff. The big problem with this in EDC is you're only going to be able to cut what you can get the blade on. So anything on a flat surface, you're not going to be able to get. The curve of this blade does not allow you to get the edge onto a flat surface. So you're essentially just cutting with the tip whenever you're on a flat surface, and you kind of have to just run the tip through whatever it is you're cutting. So if you cut a lot of stuff on a flat surface, this is not going to work for you. But other than that, this thing is a ripper, and it works very well. So that's probably the biggest negative for EDC. So let's look at this handle. It gets skinny down here, and then it gets fat towards the top, and then it has these scallops on the side, and then it has a little bit of a pry tip on the butt end, on the pommel, and this is about how big the handle is. I don't have huge hands. I can get a gorilla grip on this knife. You can pinch up like this. Reverse grip isn't so bad. All these grips are pretty good. None of them are really that bad. So what makes this thing self-defense? So if you can see, we have the skinny section, and it gets a little wider at the ricasso, and that favors the saber grip, which is this grip right here. What this is going to do is it's going to lock your hand into place, and it's going to keep you from slipping up on the blade. As long as you hold the knife like this, you can index it and know that the blade is facing where your knuckles are. So you hold it, so it's going to lock you into place. You're going to know which way the edge is going, and due to the shape of this blade, it's going to do nasty damage. So all you have to do is take this knife, lock your hands into this grip, and just do this. It doesn't require any skill or any training. Grab it and you just do that, and you're going to do an immense amount of damage to somebody in a self-defense situation if you absolutely have to. That's where I believe the self-defense role comes in with this knife design. Now, if you want your EDC blade to do food prep, this is not the knife. This is absolutely not the knife. You cannot get the blade on a table, on a surface. It's just not going to do it very well, I should say. This is not going to be a food prep knife. So if you like your compact EDC fixed blade to do that, then look away from this. But if you want something for utility purposes, bushcraft, and perhaps self-defense all wrapped in one, this might be a good option for you. I'm going to resharpen the blade, and I'm going to make this tip stout. We're going to remove the metal until this tip is sound, until I can take this tip and dig it into a piece of wood, and it will not bend or break after that. And I don't think we have very much material we need to remove for that to happen. Just a tiny bit on this tip, and I think it'll be fine. Alright guys, so what I'm going to use to touch up this blade and sharpen it is the Work Sharp Field Sharpener. I'll be using this ceramic, and that's probably all I'll be using from the Work Sharp. And then I have this from Sharpel. So I'm not by any means a professional sharpener, and I have very little experience sharpening recurve blades. But I do have this, and it's a round diamond stone by Sharpel. And there's also a tapered stone bit, and you screw these together like that, and you got a handle. And these work really good on serrations and whatever else that you need to do. It's a 600 grit diamond, and it comes in this neat little package, and it has this little case. Alrighty guys, so that's going to be it for the Zompopo by Condor. It's all freshly sharpened up. The tip is fixed. It's better than it was than when I got it. I'm not going to obsess too much over sharpness. It'll work itself out after a couple sharpenings. It's shaving sharp, and it's sharp enough to whiz through this catalog paper. So that's plenty sharp for me. And this knife, it shaves very effortlessly, as you can see. The tip is nice and stout. I can drill with it now. So I don't know if the tip just got ground a little too thin on mine, or if they're all like that. It was not a hard fix, but I don't know if everybody would be capable of that fix. So I just can't give a good solid recommendation to this knife unless you really, really like it and you have the equipment and skill to fix the problems that it came with, at least the ones mine came with. The main concern I have with using this sheath is that I'm worried that the inside of the sheath is going to get eviscerated from this blade and it's going to come apart. It hasn't happened yet. I don't know, maybe I'll try the Kydex again and see if I like it. Guys, well that's it. That's the Condor Zompopo by Joe Flowers. Can I recommend it? Only if you really like it and you have to have it and you're capable of fixing any edge problems, and the tip being too thin possibly could be two issues with yours. That was what was wrong with mine. So if you're willing to take that risk and able to fix those two things, and you really, really like this design and you really like Joe Flowers, then I would say go for it. I'm really liking this knife. I'm digging it. And I'm gonna use this in my EDC rotation quite often.